This year I resolved to be a better person, gain 20 pounds of muscle, learn planche push-ups, write and publish my first novel, and make my bed every day. It's very easy to make New Year's resolutions. Why is it so hard to stick to them? Social science and common sense point the way toward making resolutions you can stick to. I'm Rob Peterson, thanks for tuning in. First, let me say that I think New Year's resolutions are a good idea. The end of a year and the beginning of a new year is a great time to take stock of what you've accomplished or where you're at, and to refocus yourself on your goals or come up with new goals that fit where you're at now. People are more likely to succeed with goals or resolutions that they set at the beginning of the year than goals they set at other times. However, it's still notoriously difficult to keep New Year's resolutions. One study showed that only about 8% of people succeed with their New Year's resolutions. So why is that? Why is it so hard for people to keep their resolutions? Well, the main problem is the resolutions themselves, rather than people's ability to follow through. I'm going to give you 3 general principles for formulating effective New Year's resolutions that will make it easier for you to succeed. And of course, since this is a fitness channel, the examples I'm going to give will focus on diet and exercise. The first general principle is that your resolution should be specific. The most common types of New Year's resolutions tend to be things like, this year I'm going to get in shape. Or even worse, this year I'm going to try to be a better person. Those are terrible resolutions that are doomed to failure. They're so vague that they're practically meaningless. After a couple of months, you won't even remember that you made those resolutions. The second principle is, don't go overboard. You're better off setting small, attainable goals. If your resolutions are too difficult on a day-to-day basis, you probably won't be able to stick to them. And if your resolution involves some end goal, make sure that it's something you could realistically accomplish. Otherwise, you run the risk of getting discouraged and just giving up altogether. And the third principle has to do with willpower. Boatloads of social science research shows that you can't rely on willpower to do something difficult consistently over time. Most people fail if they attempt to do that. The reason is that willpower is a finite resource. You only have so much of it. Take dieting. Even if you manage to succeed at resisting eating all the snacks and desserts and everything using only your willpower, one problem is that you'd then have less willpower available to do other things, like resisting the urge to go on social media all the time. What's much more effective than willpower is to set up systems that passively influence you in the direction of success. Let me just give you a quick example of this sort of thing. Some of you may have come across the concept of a psychological nudge. These tend to be subtle things that unobtrusively influence people's behavior. One classic example of a nudge is having people eat off of smaller plates. Studies show that giving people their meals on smaller plates results in them eating less food, even when they're free to fill their plates as many times as they like. They're not trying to eat less. They don't necessarily know that they're eating less, but they eat less. So you see what I mean? That's something that doesn't involve any willpower at all. It's a system that works passively, sort of in the background. Okay, I'm going to give some specific examples of these principles, and the first set of examples are going to relate to fitness and workout goals. First, be specific. If your goal is to get in shape or to work out more, then a good resolution might be, I'm going to work out at least twice a week, or I'm going to walk at least 30 minutes a day. And of course, specific strength or skill goals are always great, like, this year I'm going to get to 10 pull-ups, or this year I'm going to get to 350 pounds on the deadlift. For me, goals like that are hugely motivating. They're what keeps me going. Second, make sure your resolution is achievable. If your goal is a specific strength goal, make sure it's possible. Like, if your current 1 rep max on the deadlift is 200 pounds, a resolution to get to 600 pounds this year might be unrealistic. And if your goal is more like generally getting in shape, make sure your resolution is something you can stick with. Like, I will put on my running shoes and actually go outside and do something 3 times a week. Even if you only walk for 5 minutes, it's still a very useful resolution. If you stick to doing just that much, you will go running much more often than you would if you didn't do that much. And it's something that you can stick to. Everyone has time to just put their shoes on and go outside. As far as the third principle goes, I'm not really sure how best to employ automatic systems or psychological nudges to get you to work out. But you might employ strategies that automatically remind you of your workout, that help keep it in the forefront of your mind. I don't know. Put your gym membership in a place in your wallet where you see it every time you open your wallet. Keep your workout shoes right by the front door, something like that. You'll have to think of things that will fit your circumstances. Also, it helps to make it public. Tell all your friends what your resolution is. They'll ask you about it from time to time, and that will help remind you. Now on to diet and weight-related goals. Again, the first principle, be specific. Here's an example. This year I'm going to lose 20 pounds by the end of June and keep it off until the end of the year. It's good because it's very clear. It gives you something concrete to work toward, and you can't fool yourself whether or not you succeeded. Another good example would be something like, I will stop eating afternoon snacks Monday through Friday. And the second principle, keep your goals small and attainable. This is especially true of dieting. Dieting is hard. Almost no one succeeds at maintaining weight loss. So, if you've dieted many times, and you've been able to lose, say, 40 or 50 pounds, but you've always gained it back, then a good resolution for you might be to lose 10 pounds. Just 10 pounds, but to keep it off. If you manage to accomplish that through some lifestyle change, and you maintain it long enough that it feels like it will stick, then you can always choose to lose more. And speaking of lifestyle changes, let me just mention one that's made a big difference to me. 2 years ago, I made a New Year's resolution to not eat breakfast anymore. Ever since then, I haven't ever eaten before noon. That was a good, specific resolution, and I've been able to maintain it, and it's worked great. It's been the most effective strategy I've ever used to help me maintain my weight. And because dieting is so notoriously difficult, you really want to rely on willpower as little as possible. This is probably the area where setting up systems to help you succeed, or using psychological nudges to help you, is the most important. I'm going to give you some concrete examples that you might try. I'm firmly convinced that the biggest problem for most people is eating too much sugar. And for many people, not everyone, but probably most people, one big problem is that they can't resist eating sweets if they're readily available. The easiest way around this is to avoid having sweets around. If you're one of those people who can't resist eating cookies, or for whom it takes tremendous willpower to resist eating cookies, then don't keep cookies around. Especially don't keep them in your house. If you're craving cookies, but there are no cookies around, and you would have to go out and buy cookies when the craving strikes, then you're less likely to eat cookies. And if there's some reason why you really have to have cookies in the house, try to keep them somewhere out of sight. Here are some tricks to help you. First, try to plan your meals, at least to some extent. When you go shopping, have a plan of what you're going to buy and stick to that plan. Second, don't go shopping. Don't even set foot inside a store when you're hungry. Only go shopping after eating a big meal. This will make it much easier to resist impulse purchases. Third, try not to ever go inside gas stations. Those are the worst. The entire space inside exists to separate you from your money without providing anything of actual value. There's nothing in there but candy, cigarettes, and lottery tickets. Just pay at the pump and don't go inside. You can also take positive steps. Eating raw vegetables is a really good way to fill yourself up without adding extra calories. Buy vegetables at the store and cut them up so that they're ready to eat. Then when you do have a craving for cookies, eat the vegetables instead. They don't taste as good as cookies, but that will usually make the craving go away. Of course, this does require some upfront effort. You have to remember to buy vegetables and take the time to cut them up, but the effort will really pay off. If you keep vegetables cut up and ready to go, you'll eat them at least some of the time. If they're not cut up and ready to eat when the craving strikes, you're not going to cut them up then, you're going to go for the cookies. And I'm going to close by telling you about my New Year's resolution. I've tried hard to think of one that fits into some of the ideas that I've talked about. I'm not going to make any diet-related resolutions. What I've been doing for the past couple years, intermittent fasting and so on, has been working really well, and I'm pretty happy with everything. I'm just going to keep on doing what I've been doing. And unfortunately, with my shoulder injury, I'm not comfortable making any resolutions involving my calisthenics skills or strength. I'm unhappy about that, but if I say, this year I resolved to get a planche, then for sure my shoulder will be like, Okay, about my resolution. It's related to this channel rather than to my workouts themselves. One of my big problems is that I'm kind of a procrastinator. When I have a job to do, like writing a new script, I often have trouble getting started. So here's my resolution. I resolve to do some work on my channel every day. Specifically, that means that I will modify a computer file. I will write something, even if it's just one word. Or I will work on thumbnails, even if it's just resizing an image. Or I'll write down a couple of potential titles. I will do something every day, even if it's only for 30 seconds. And I am writing that goal down at the beginning of my 2022 daily planner so that I won't forget it. And every day, after I fulfill the resolution for that day, I will put a small dot at the bottom right corner of that day in my planner. I will do this every day, and even though it's a very small thing, and there will be lots of days that I do the bare minimum, some of the time it'll help me get started working where I might otherwise have put it off till tomorrow. That's it. Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or any thoughts, and subscribe for more content like this. Happy New Year, and good luck with your goals and your progress in 2022.